Quentin Crisp became well known quite late in life thanks to a book and BBC play about him, both called The Naked Civil Servant. Growing up 6 or 7 decades ago, Crisp seemed to antagonize everyone around him, his family, his friends, his co-workers. His homosexual preferences were surely a provocation, understandable in that era, but there is also about him a kind of passive flamboyance that even invades his attitudes toward food.
And his most recent book is called Doing It with Style. Now, Mr. Crisp, this is a new way for you to come at us, the reading public. What is your message? What does it mean, doing it with style? Doing what with style?
Doing almost everything. This is a book written by me and by Donald Carroll. And it is a how-to book telling you ways of avoiding making errors, avoiding doing things you will later regret, so that you learn how to get married with style and how to entertain with style, and almost it's specific. It has things to say about almost everything that ordinary urban people do.
I'm a little bit bewildered, because if there is any lesson to your life, it is do it your own way, not somebody else's way.
This is true. And I previously wrote a book called How to Have a Lifestyle. And this was about the theory of style. And the new book, written with Mr. Carroll, is the sort of examples of what is stylish. So it tells you specifically how to deal with certain situations. But even so, the book is the same in the sense that there's a suggestion throughout that style must be sincere. This is not a book of etiquette. It only tells you how to find a way of being yourself in all circumstances.
Not clear yet. Perhaps this will help to clear it up. Your problem in growing up in Great Britain was that you ran against enormous anti-homosexual feeling.
Yes.
This resulted in your career being interrupted and your nose being bloodied more than once. If you had had this book that you have now written, A Warp in Time, say, would it have been of any use to you?
Very little, because I didn't live in the outer world in the sense that the book is about the social life. I had very little social life when I was young. My life was entirely concerned with getting by in a very rudimentary way. How I had to get a room from which I wouldn't be turned out. I had to get a job from which I wouldn't get the sack. So there was never any question of my choosing a job. If anyone offered me a job, I said, I'll do it. What is it?
Well, have you not turned your back on the boy you once were? Have you become a media commodity wearing a purple cowboy hat and purple boots? Are you being faithful to yourself?
Yes, these are the rewards that the world has ultimately bestowed upon me, to my amazement, but nevertheless this is so. If I had been told when I was young that the day would come when I would be asked my opinion on the radio, I would have been amazed, because the whole time was spent by the world saying, oh, do shut up. Now this is no longer so. So I am able to express my opinions, but I still try to live my life in accordance with my view of myself.
And you're making up for lost time.
And I'm making up for lost time.
I've noticed some of the garb that you're wearing. I should also say that you're wearing makeup.
That's right. Yes, I still wear makeup because there has to be some way of keeping my image consistent.
Tell me a little bit about the surprise that you had, that the world sort of turned around, where once you were an outcast, now you're a sort of celebrity. How did that happen?
Well, it happened to a slight extent when I wrote the story of my life, which was called The Naked Civil Servant, and this came out in 1968, and this altered my life a little. I then spoke to small groups of people.
May I interrupt you, sir? Why did you want to write it at that time? What was it that made you want to put it down on paper?
I was told to write it. The answer to everything in my life is I was told to do it.
You are a passive, respectful, acquiescent person.
This is indeed so, and my American agent says I've raised passivity to the level of an art form. And therefore, when they said, write the story of your life, I wrote it. Then they offered to buy the television rights, and so I said, have them. And then they said, now you are a television object, go to these various interviews, and so I go to them.
Well, when you were a kid and people, your family and the people around you said to you, stop acting like a goddamn fag, why didn't you?
I didn't know how. You see, there was no way. A lot of people could masquerade as ordinary mortals. They at least look like ordinary mortals, and their voices and their movements are like those of ordinary mortals. But there were, long before I ever wore makeup, I was a lost soul. I don't ever remember not being laughed at by my parents, by my brothers and my sister. And so, of course, the day had to come when I asked myself, what is it? What is it about me that causes all this comment? And then I had to learn to do deliberately what I used to do by mistake.
Why?
So as to have the joke on my own terms. Otherwise, you're always the victim of your peculiarities.
I think you have made the point before that your lifestyle, your unusual lifestyle, predated your sexual orientation or your sexual activity.
Oh, yes, my problem is never a sexual problem. It was a personality problem. How to live out my life, how to live all the elements of my life, including those which were the opposite of my physical sexual characteristics. And everybody should do this. Now, most men do not have a great number of feminine characteristics, but if they have any, they shouldn't say, these I must repress. They should say, are they important to me? Because if they are, I should express them, and if they're not, I should ignore them.
What a peculiar timing your life has had. You were born into a period of repression in terms of who you were, and you have ended up, you haven't ended up yet, but you are now at a point in which you're celebrated for it. So you've gone really 180 degrees. Would you have preferred to have been born after the switch?
Well, it would have made my life easier, and it would have made my personality less shrill, because I would have been able...
I don't think you're shrill.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you. You see, if you live in a world which feels free to ignore what your peculiarities, then you merely state them, you don't shout them. And whereas originally I had a great deal of difficulty in not moving from doing what was natural to me into a realm of doing what was annoying to the neighbors. This you must, as I see it, avoid. You must ask yourself, if there were no praise and no blame, who would I be then?
And so now you've come to a point in your life where you suppose yourself to be an arbiter of style for the John Waynes of this world as well as everybody else. For the Arnold Schwarzeneggers of this world. You are
If they feel at a loss in any way, if when they look round or when they look at their recent past, they think, I made a fool of myself then, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have said that.
Well, we all feel that.
You see.
I think regularly we all feel that.
That's right. Well, when you've read the book, you will never feel this again.
Because you'll say, I did what was me.
You'll say, I did what was me, and then if you don't, you refer to the book and find out what you should have done in terms of yourself.
But this is one of the unfortunate elements of human psychology, I put to you. I mean, I know that criminals frequently will harm other people, and they will say, well, it doesn't matter, I don't care, because I did it for the sake of the great me.
I think you won't find that any harm is done by stylists because they are concerned with themselves. The harm in the world is done by people who make themselves the judge of other people's happiness. Once you're a stylist, you're preoccupied with yourself, with getting to be more and more like yourself, and never with making other people like yourself.
Now, Oscar Wilde said, "I do not follow the style, I create it." Do you fancy yourself a kind of modern Oscar Wilde?
No, we're totally opposed. Mr. Wilde said, in matters of great importance, it is not sincerity that matters, but style. But to me, they're the same thing.
But surely you say, I create style. I do not follow what other people do, as Wilde said.
I create myself, and then I find a way of expressing it. And there is no sense in which I am creating something other people should do. They have to decide who they are, and they have to find ways, through the way they act, through the way they deal with situations, through the way they deal with strangers, through the way they deal with friends. All these things are ways of expressing their style.
So out of the cauldron of your unusual and difficult development, you have arrived at a level where you can see what's advantageous to other people as well as yourself. And it doesn't matter whether they are like you or not.
Oh, no, there's no suggestion they should be like me. They should use some of the same ways of being like themselves that I have used of being like myself.
Well, let's take one element of style and talk about it for a couple of minutes. I'm interested. I always like to talk to people I interview about food, their taste for food, their style of food. What will your book teach us about food?
It will teach you that you should present other people with the food that you like, but not, of course, forcing upon them food that you know they dislike. But after a while, they will know at your house that they receive a certain kind of food.
And they can accept or reject
That's
invitations?
Right, yes.
But surely if I want them for their company and they want me for my company and I'm serving them something that they can't...
No, mostly you will not actually serve them food. If you can find out what food they like, you will, of course, serve it. And you can say to people before they arrive...
bring a brown bag.
bring a brown bag, and you can say, we thought of eating this, would you like it? You come as far out into the open as you can. Never thinking that you shouldn't mention things, never thinking that you shouldn't be ignorant of things. So when you eat out, you do say to the waiter, what does this mean?
What is this French
what does
phrase?
This phrase mean? You do indicate to your guests.
Well, the trouble with that, Mr. Crisp, is that many French menus are so long, and it would take you longer to find out what the whole thing meant than it would to eat.
Well, ideally, in that case, I would not take someone to a restaurant where the menu is in French, because I accept that limitation in myself. So that is already part of my style. We are going to such and such a restaurant because the menu is in English and I will understand it. Then you can read it, and then you can say to your guests, would you like this or that or the other? Now then they already know what you're prepared to spend. You see.
Spend.
So then they don't think, well, I'd love to have poached salmon, but I daren't. I mean, he looks so ragged, we can't really order this. So you've already said, would you like this? They quickly look and see what this costs, and they say, oh, I don't like this, but they choose something else at the same price.
Do you like to cook?
I never cook. I eat stuff which you buy in a chemist, which is a whitish powder, and you mix it with water, and you need never wash up. And you need never cook again. It's a complete meal.
Whatever are you talking about?
It's a stuff called Complan, and you buy it in a chemist, but it's wonderful.
Does it have any taste to it?
Almost none. It tastes rather like wallpaper. You know that stuff you paint the walls.
Plaster?
Yes. But I didn't promise you pleasure with your happiness.
What happiness derives from eating wall plaster?
The happiness of not having to cook, not having to wash up, only having to shop in one place. Think of all the spare time I'm giving you.
And when you go to a restaurant?
When I go to a restaurant, I eat what other people... I go to a restaurant with other people. Therefore, I eat with them, and I eat more or less what they say.
what they tell you to eat.
Well, when they say, I am having this, I say, it sounds wonderful, I will have the same. That lets me out.
You don't want to make the choice. If wall plaster were on the menu...
And my host said, let's all have some wall plaster, I would say yes.
Why are you like that?
When I was a child and my brothers and sisters wanted to be startling things, my brothers wanted to be the captains of iron ships and things like that, I only wanted to be a chronic invalid, so that all the decisions would be taken from me. And now I have an agent. In fact, I have two agents, one in England and one in America. And so I never make a decision. It's all done for me.
Go home, get out your can of wall plaster. Do you cook it or just eat it from the can?
You just mix it with water.
It has no taste.
None.
Does it have any nutritive value? You're alive, it must have nutritive value.
It has total nutritive value. You need no other food.
Well, do you put salt or pepper or catsup or Tabasco sauce on it? Or...
You could do this, but I don't bother.
You don't care?
I don't care.
Because, as we were saying before, you've raised passivity to an art form.
That's right.
Does the taste of food give you no pleasure?
Yes, some, but not enough for me to take trouble with it.
Or even to the point of making a decision in a restaurant?
I try to get out of the decision. Sometimes you can't. Then you have to decide.
How about booze?
I drink what I'm given. Otherwise, I drink water.
You seem quite healthy.
Yes, I think people spend too much time worrying about what will make them healthy. And by the time you're my age, the answer must be, do what you've always done, since I'm still here.
You said Rita Hayworth should have been President of the United States.
Yes.
Please explain.
Well, because she has this wonderful, universal, loving presentation of herself. And we would all have felt that we longed to help her and to do as she said.
Tell me what you mean exactly.
It's not easy. It's a presence that she has in her movies, a kind of ample desire to be loved and to love. I think this is something you see when you see her movies.
So she should have been president in the 40s or maybe the early 50s, not now.
Well, now of course things have got more difficult. But I do see the point. The American dream is that politics and Hollywood should be the same thing, and I agree with this.
Who should be Prime Minister? Who should be King of England?
Well, we have a Queen of England, and she is doing very well indeed, because she has...
Well, but we're talking about replacements now.
Oh, you want someone else? Well, that's very difficult in England, as it's a hereditary...
How about Diana Dors, perhaps?
Oh, that would be nice. Yes, Diana Dors is a wonderful person, and a great stylist. The fact that you've mentioned her name shows she's already a stylist, that everyone knows who she is, what she's like, and what the Diana Dors way is.
What is the difference? Before we leave this subject, what about Prince Charles? Will he live up to your parameters in terms of his style, his personal conduct?
I imagine he, too, will adapt his own personality to the demands of royalty in the present time, which is that they should be, to some extent, democratic. And I think he will undertake to do this.
Isn't it kind of dangerous for a monarch to have a sense of humor? Can it get him in trouble?
No, it can be a help. He will control it, of course. He will learn what jokes to make and what not to make. And I imagine...
He has not learned yet, as you know.
I imagine that they are very carefully told what not to do and what not to do, and that they adapt that to some extent, because there's no way in which you can tell a person utterly how to be in such a way that their personality does not come through. And he has a certain charm, and this will come through whatever restrictions are placed on him.
Would you be at all upset if the monarchy were to be gotten rid of in Great Britain?
I think it would be a pity, because it's part of the style of Britain. You see, even countries have their style. And now that I've lived for a while in America, I am aware of what the national style of America is.
And in a sentence, what is it?
It's immediacy.
I like that because it contains the word media.
That's right.
It's instant gratification on every level. Is that what you're saying?
And it's instant availability. Or when you live in Manhattan, everybody talks to everybody. And when you're on a bus in Manhattan, it's like being in a school outing. Everybody talks to everybody.
That hasn't always been the case, you know.
Ah, well, it is so now, because I've lived there for nearly a year.
And can you equally sum up the situation in England?
The style of England is the desire not to be involved. That is the national style, as I see it.
Uh-huh. Well, let's go back to the beginning now, because after talking to you for a while, it seems clear to me that there is some contradiction here. Here you are, the king of passivity, the man who refuses to make a choice and has done all his life, now trying to dictate to the rest of us what choices we should make.
I did it because I was told to write the book.
And the rest of us, how should we react? Should we be as passive as your life has been? Should we accept it because you say so? Or should we exercise style in saying what he says makes sense, doesn't make sense, makes a little sense? Should we exercise our intelligence?
Oh, yes, entirely. There is no word in the book which says that anyone should be like me. God forbid.
Why? What's so wrong with being Quentin Crisp?
It's taken me 72 years to reach the outer world, whereas with luck, most people will reach it while they're quite young.
What do you mean to reach the outer world? What was the breakthrough for you? How did you know you were there?
I suppose chiefly when I went on to television, which contains a sanctifying element. And there will be a book published in America soon called How to Become a Virgin. And this will tell you what effect television has on your life. It redeems you.
Is this your book?
Yes.
How to Become a Virgin. What does the title mean? How to get pure again.
Yes, that's right. How to have your entire past wiped away so that when you're in the world, people accept you, and they accept you not for anything you've done or said, but simply because you've been on television, especially in America.
Do you advocate psychiatry for people who have the difficulty that you had in reaching the outer world?
Oh, no. Psychiatry is a terrible mistake. It tries to take your scars away. It tries to make you a totally processed person, whereas I want you to carry everything you are with you.
I understand the suffering that you have endured and the pain that it has cost you to get to where you are now. And yet I guess it has to be said that you have reached some sort of rapprochement with life. That I think you are satisfied now with who you are.
Oh, yes, indeed. I think I've been very lucky. And every day of my life I try to make it obvious to myself and to everybody else that I am grateful to the way I've been treated by fate.
Have you had any contact with young people who are now the way you were then? Have you been able to use your experience directly to help people?
Oh, they ring me up or they write to me all the time. And, of course, mostly you don't have to solve people's problems by telling them what to do. You make them restate their problem over and over again, and in the end they arrive at the solution themselves.
And is homosexuality the only link that people see with you, or are other outsiders equally interested in your way of life?
Oh, yes. Everybody who feels that the world is out there and they're in here, they write to me or they question me.
Do you accept that?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
How effective are you in helping them?
I've no idea. because the answer is always that once they know the answer, they don't have to bother with other people anymore. They go out into the world. This is like having children. They don't come back and tell you they're grateful. You are only glad that they've learned to go away, that they've learned how to deal with the world. That is your reward.
And now say a final word to somebody who would like to connect.
First of all, you decide who you really are, embracing your limitations as well as your possibilities, and then you offer it humbly to the rest of the world.
And in fact, Quentin Crisp has gone his own way, and at the age of 72 seems remarkably lithe and adjusted. He peacefully chomps away at the wall while driving everyone else up it. This is Stephen Banker in Atlanta.